An Indiana judge has blocked enforcement of the state's new abortion ban as a lawsuit proceeds. The law generally prohibits an abortion after 20 weeks of pregnancy with restrictions after 13. The state's attorney general plans to appeal. Well, the House of Representatives has passed legislation to overhaul the rules for certifying a presidential election. The measure was approved last night. The Electoral Count Act governs how states and Congress certifies electors and declares presidential election winners. House Democrats support the measure. Most Republicans say the law should not be a priority and also question the timing of the vote. And we go now to Dennis Ross, the director of the American Center for Political Leadership and Southeastern University. He is also a former member of Congress. Representative Ross, thanks so much for your time today. We appreciate it. So can you tell us what exactly these proposed changes will do? And do you think this is a move in the right direction? Your thoughts?
Well, I think we need to address the Electoral Count Act because of what happened on January 6th. But what was passed yesterday is more of a nationalization of our electoral process, which was not intended by our Constitution, which in Article 1 requires that each state determine the method and manner by which they choose their electors to elect a president. But what was passed yesterday was significant for a couple of reasons. One, it changed the threshold from just one member of each chamber to object to any particular state's votes to 1/5 of each chamber to object. And that's a pretty significant threshold. The other thing it does is that it changes the method and manner by which you can challenge this in court, and it makes the federal courts have the control so that they can determine whether the ballots ought to be counted or not. It does identify that the vice president is in a ministerial role and not an authoritative role to discount or otherwise reject electoral ballots. You know, the timing is a little interesting because we're getting ready for midterms. There's a good chance that the Republicans will win the House over in this next election, so you'll see this again in the midterms. But I will tell you the Senate also has a similar bill. It's supported by 10 Republicans, which means that they've got 60 votes over there to send it over. I believe that you'll see something banter back from the Senate, and it might be more like the Senate's version, which only requires 1/3 of each chamber to object and has a predetermined path, including state courts or the state judicial process to be able to overturn any of the ballots or the choosing of the electors.
Yeah, very interesting. We'll see how that all shakes out. Switching gears, a court ruling yesterday cleared the way for the investigation to continue into the documents seized during the FBI search at Mar-a-Lago last month. How big a setback is this for President Donald Trump?
Well, you got to understand that President Trump has taken the position that he can declassify, that the president can declassify at any time. And I'm not so sure that's the case. And so that's being put to a test here. This is as much a political battle as it is a legal structure, a struggle for what the powers of the president actually are. And the president does have certain enumerated rights to declassify information, but there's a process to do that. This is probably a little bit of a setback for the former president as he challenges what was done as a very unusual search and seizure of materials from his home. So I would say that yes, it's a bit of a setback for the president, but you got to understand the president has taken a very strong position that he can declassify at any time, which I don't think will be determined to be the state of the law at the end of the day.
We have probably a little less than a minute left, but I want to get your opinion on something else about the migrants being flown from Florida to places like Marthas Vineyard. As you know, Governor Ron DeSantis received a lot of attention for this and mixed reaction. Your thoughts?
Well, it's not the first time in American history that we used a class of people for political purposes. But also, I will tell you that we've got to raise the awareness and do something about our immigration system. And there are very good people, I'm sure, that are coming across our borders that need our help, and we can provide them that particular future that they need in order to not only be prosperous themselves, but also to make this country a very stronger country. But I will tell you that we don't get a consensus, if we don't get an agenda item between the House and the Senate to address the porous nature of our borders, this is only going to get worse. What we saw happen with Governor DeSantis sending the planes to Marthas Vineyard and Governor Abbott going to Chicago is only going to get worse. This has to be brought to some sense of a resolution, and the parties have got to do this. And the only way we can do that is to get Congress to address it, because it is their responsibility. It is Congress's responsibility to secure our borders and to make sure we have a good immigration system that is what exactly made this country. So I'm hopeful that it doesn't escalate anymore, but I'm concerned that it will, and it's going to probably get worse before it gets better.
Representative Ross, always great to have you on. Thank you so much for weighing in.
You bet. Thank you.